Hello, my lovelies, and welcome back to another fabulous stream, another Friday, another stream. Before I start and before I introduce my illustrious guest, who probably everybody will know, I want to ask you guys something because you might have seen I'm investing a teeny tiny bit in my channel. I'm dropping a lot of videos these days, and that means I invest a lot of time to do this. So it would be really, really nice if you guys engage. So please give this a like and comment whatever. I don't really care. Comment whatever you want. But this is important for a teeny tiny channel like mine. And we want to grow here. We want to make this community bigger. Sorry, this is very unprofessional. My cat is also wants to say something, but no. This is really, really important to me that you do that. And I did see that half of the people watching my videos are not subscribed. So what are you doing with your life, people? Please subscribe, yada, yada, yada. So what are we talking today?
We're
Dan,
talking
introduce yourself.
Fingolfin, the
Yeah.
High King of the Naldor.
We do that. Exactly. Dan, I don't know if I need to introduce you, but feel free.
I mean, it's been a little while since I've been on the channel yet again,
Mhm.
so maybe I should reintroduce myself again. I'm Dan from the YouTube channel Voice of Geekdom, long-time associate of this channel, and
Associate.
I don't know how else to put it. We're
Friend.
basically friends in Tolkien fandom.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm back again to talk more Tolkien with you, which
There and
is
back
all.
again, basically.
Yep.
Yay, cool. So, and we are excited for this one today. We wanted to do this a long time ago, but today we want to talk about one of the best people. Obviously, it's an elf. I mean, everybody who knows my channel knows Helen likes to talk elves, but yes, it's that guy. It's the guy with the shield and the sword and the horse. He comes in full armor. He fights the mightiest, most powerful being in this world. Although I do think, there is a kind of misunderstanding how powerful Morgoth is at that time, but we'll talk about that later. And yeah, Fingolfin. So how this will happen for people who watch this for the first time, we will go through his history a little bit, but then we'll mostly talk about our thoughts and feelings about this epic character in the legendarium. So Dan, where do we want to start? Maybe we start with his upbringing, because this is really important. He is an elf who was born in the Undying Lands. He wasn't born in Middle Earth as many players and elves later on. He was born in the Undying Lands under the light of the two trees. He was born into the royal family, into the royal line, house of the Noldor. He was the second son of the High King of the Noldor, Finwë. Firstborn in his second marriage, though. So Finwë had three sons. The mighty Fëanor, we will talk about him a little bit as well, I guess, because a lot happened between these two stepbrothers. And then he had a younger brother, Finarfin, who was basically Galadriel's father. Just so you can have a picture here in mind, canon-wise. And yeah, Dan, what else do we know about his upbringing and beginning?
Well, it's interesting to start off with the fact that he was born in Oman, because the new book just came out, The Nature of Middle Earth,
Yeah.
and the whole first section of that book, for those who haven't read it yet, is you've got your copy now, right?
Yes, but I haven't read it. I was literally writing videos.
Yeah, I haven't finished it yet either, but the whole first section of the book is about how Tolkien was revising the schema for the Years of the Trees. So he actually made them much longer than what we're used to from the Silmarillion that we got in the 70s.
So it's no longer 9.5 or whatever years, or 9.4 years. It's now 100 something, right?
Something like that, yeah. I think it's 108 years of the sun, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So the implication of that is that Tolkien kept the same dates, but there was much longer time span. So he had to
Mhm.
explain
Mhm.
why that is the case, and how the elves live and how that affects the way that they reproduce. Because he
Mhm.
also had to create the elves, the elvish societies that we see in the early chapters of the Silmarillion. They had
Mhm.
to, beget children at a rate for them to grow a believable population.
Yeah.
Um, the implication for Fingolfin's character is that Tolkien made it clear that he wanted Finwë to marry or to remarry in Valinor.
Yeah.
So Fingolfin's mother, whose name I'm forgetting, you're going to remind me.
In this.
Indis, yes.
She's a Vanya. I mean, I know all my Vanya.
Yeah. So Tolkien was very insistent that he wanted Indis to marry Finwë in Valinor, which
Yeah.
I find interesting, just because it raises the question of, should the elves have ever been in Valinor in the first place? Was it a mistake for them to be there? All
Mm-hmm.
those sorts of questions that revolve around the question of the Great Journey.
Mm-hmm.
Because, clearly that was a breaking point in the Noldor. As what happens is, Melkor takes advantage of that and uses that, remarriage to create jealousy in the brothers and divide the whole house.
Mm-hmm. Although it was, yes, I completely agree. I do think I have not having read it, right? But I do think it was also important because she's not leaving, right? And it is important to know that some of the elves stayed behind by choice, not following their king. Because even in this, she was a Vanya. We said, there are three royal houses, three lines, three clans of the elves. So the Vanya, which are the highest, which are basically the kings of the kings, right? The high kings of all
Mhm.
elves. Then the Noldor, and then the Teleri. And Indis is of that royal house. Even she is a princess. She's related to the highest king, of all elves, and but then she marries the king of the Noldor, and she basically, in a way, also becomes, mother to Noldor children, to four Noldor children, right? And
Mm.
she decides not to follow because, spoiler, later on the king dies, and the new king, Fëanor, wants to go to Middle Earth, right? He's leading his people to Middle Earth, but she's not following, and a lot of the others are also not following. So I think
A lot of the wives didn't, did they?
a lot of the wives is that they don't follow their husbands. Happened to Fingolfin as well, for
Hmm.
example, right? So his wife, she stayed behind, and I find that very interesting. And maybe that there's a correlation there between some needed to stay and some for their own selfish reasons. Some just like Galadriel, and some just followed the words of their new king, because we will learn later on why Fingolfin went, or one of the reasons. There are two reasons, I would say. So maybe that is also, some needed to stay behind, some needed to go on the journey.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was born, as we say, Years of the Trees, 1190 in Tirion.
Hmm.
And as we've already alluded to, like the big kind of introduction is him and his brother Fëanor, who is the
Yeah.
creator of the Silmarils, as we know.
Hmm.
And Fëanor was very kind of jealous of his brothers and distrustful of them, and Melkor uses that to his advantage as
Hmm.
he gets out of prison on parole, and he immediately starts to sort of
Yeah.
use his
Speed.
kind of manipulation skills and his
Hmm.
propaganda to
Yeah.
undermine these relationships.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he convinces Fëanor that Fingolfin wants to actually take over as heir, basically, wants to supplant him, which is kind
Hmm.
of what does happen, except it's not Fingolfin's intention.
No.
But it's a clever lie, because it ends up coming true, because Fëanor manages to get himself banished, and then
Yeah.
Fingolfin ends up taking over Tirion for a little
Yeah.
while.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's it's a self-fulfilling kind of lie that
Hmm.
Melkor does.
Hmm. Yeah. And what I always I discussed this with Lexi when we discussed the Noldor. I find it fascinating that a father, because normally, first of all, you never would think that these kind of things happen, in elven families, because we think, they're also prom and proper and prim. Prom and
Mm.
prim, prom and pripper. Just made up a new word. This is canon now, people. Um, so yeah, but you don't think, there's a family arguing there, brothers literally putting swords at each other's throats, and all that is happening. So yes, those are elves Tolkien wrote, and a family, a rift in a family, because yes, the father remarried for, I do think, very Hmm, I mean, dynastic reasons. I don't think it was love, to be fair. I really do think, because what did he say? Finwë said, oh my God, look at all the other kings. They have literally like 2,000 children. I'm making this up now, but,
Mm.
they have a lot of children. I just have one son. I was just given one son, but I'm the High King of the Noldor. So he then, after his wife decided, to finally leave this earth, or the undying lands, or her body, basically, she left, and he was like, okay, yeah, well, good. I want to remarry because I want to have more children. That was literally, I mean, yes,
Mm.
there are a lot of royal houses even today, where that is an important factor, but you don't feel like, oh my God, he walked the shores of the undying lands, and in wherever he saw Indus. Now, for her, it was real love. This is how she speaks about him, and you can feel that. For him, not so much. And then you later on even see, how he treats the children of his second marriage versus his firstborn son, which, to be
Mm.
fair, he's alone. Yes, right. He doesn't have a mother, so basically his father is everything he has left. And we know Fëanor loved his father. That was real. That was there. But yeah, he stood with his son, although what he should have had done was, to heal the rift between his three sons, right? And be like, okay, look, can we please all sit around the fireplace and, sing kumbaya and make this good again? But no, he didn't do that.
It's a difficult, unprecedented situation for everybody involved, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
it's never happened before. There's even that bit in Morgoth's Ring where the Valar like have a kind of meeting about it all and try and figure out what went wrong,
yeah,
because they didn't think that elves could, you know, die in childbirth like
yes,
this,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
know,
It
they
became a
they have to
statute. It
work out
became
the
a law.
consequences. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
it became a law. So this is
It
literally like a, yeah,
it set a precedent,
it did.
because
Yeah.
it wasn't supposed to happen, and it
No.
took them by surprise, and they were, and it's actually a really interesting read because we get dialogue from Valar that don't have any dialogue anywhere
Yeah.
else, so we actually
Yeah.
get an idea of who some of these people.
Yeah.
I say people, they're not really people.
Gods,
um,
demigods. Yeah.
so yeah, shout
Yeah.
out for that statute of Miriel, I
Um,
think it's called.
Finwë e Miriello or something like that.
Yeah,
Anyway.
it's been a while.
Yeah. So that is happening. So, the brothers grew up. They're not friends, unfortunately. The family, you
Mm.
feel the family though of the, the second marriage is really, really close. And you have that feeling. So again, there were four children. So Fingolfin was the oldest son. He had an older sister,
Mm.
Findis. Then came Fingolfin, then came a second sister, Irime, who, I suspect is Glorfindel's mother. This is
Yeah, which
canon,
I always
people.
get this wrong. Every time you say this, I get completely confused. But yeah.
Yes, Irime, because she was the elf that went to Middle Earth. So why would she? She accompanied her son anyway, and her brothers. And then there was the last son, and that was Finarfin. So the brother, the father of Galadriel, Finrod, Egnor, and uh, um Angrod, Egnor.
Angrod, yeah,
Yes, exactly.
and
Egnor.
Orodreth in some versions as well.
And
In
some,
in the Silmarillion version, but
yes.
Christopher Tolkien later says that was a
Yeah.
mistake. So it
Yeah, I
depends.
think it's a mistake. Yeah.
Mm,
Anyway, so and Fingolfin himself, he also had 4 children. He Fingon, Turgon, Aredel, yay, one of my favorites, and Argon. So also a very, 3 very illustrious children who later on would become, there are high kings amongst them. There are
mm,
epic fighters, the new king of Gondolin, like this is a really important bloodline we're talking about here, right? And also the bloodline, I just recently made the Elrond video. This is the bloodline basically of
mm.
Aragorn, Elrond, all these people, they're all related. Their ancestor is Fingolfin, which is kind of really cool. Yes, because some of the Noldor die out, rightfully so. um Shout out to Feanor. Anyway, so this is what is happening. So all these people are in the Undying Lands at this point because all their children are also born in the years of the trees in the Undying Lands. So it's it became a big family, but still the ruling king was Finwë. And well, then came in your and my BFF Morgoth and Ungoliant, and they decided to to do their magic, and they kill basically the king. They kill Finwë. And then
Well,
what?
before that, something else happens as well
Yes.
because there's
Oh,
the
the
the,
king
conf- the
strike. Yes.
confrontation between
Yes.
Fingolfin and Feanor,
Yeah,
where
you're right.
Feanor draws his sword. He
Yeah.
he approaches the king. Fingolfin goes to the king and says, "Look,
Yeah.
You need to sort Feanor out because he's out of order."
Hmm.
And he comes in and says, he's creating problems here. We need to sort him out basically. And
Yeah.
and then Feanor comes in and he sees this and he thinks, oh, I was right. Fingolfin is trying to talk my dad
Yeah.
into doing something here, and there's a conspiracy. And so he reacts angrily and he comes in and he's wearing his sword.
Yeah.
And he draws his sword, which I think we're told that that's the first time an elf has ever drawn swords against
Yes.
another elf.
Yeah.
And
And especially in the Undying Lands, a
yeah,
peaceful land. Why would you even need swords there? There is no war, right? Why are you gearing up? But again, this was Morgoth,
mm.
whispering in all of their ears, actually, because the others also geared up. It wasn't just Fëanor, to be fair.
I imagine in the period before the drawing of the sword, that
Yeah.
there was, tournament fighting that happened. That there was, melees and stuff like that
Yeah,
went
but
on. It
like
was
chivalry, yes.
yeah, like competitive chivalry,
Yeah.
like we see in in
Yeah.
real world history.
Yeah.
But but I don't think there was ever a moment like this before this moment, and it was very very public. Everybody saw it.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, and I really like the reaction of Fingolfin because it's very,
mm.
very biblical. It's like, how's it called
Cain and Abel.
oh
Cain,
yeah,
and- Cain and
turn
Abel, I
the
think of.
other cheek, like turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that is, very, very Christian as well, right? He didn't fight with him. He didn't even say anything. He didn't fight with him verbally. He didn't fight with him physically. He left.
He walked
Um,
away. Yeah.
yeah, which is, I do think personally, knowing Fëanor, which angered him even more probably.
Mm, I think so.
um, just
We all know
judging by his
somebody like
reaction.
that, don't we?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great moment, and it speaks to his character, as you say,
Yeah.
because he doesn't rise to it, and he
No.
realizes that discretion is the better part of valor, and he just leaves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which it's not something that he does later on when he does get angry later on, but we'll
Yes.
get to that.
Yes, but he gets angry and then there is nobody above him, right? He is at that
Mm,
point, he is the king. And I really do think Fingolfin takes this whole kingship and these listening to your elders, and this is my father and this is my older brother, I can't speak against. I think that is a big factor that also plays in this. I really do think if Fëanor would have been a rando standing there, like attacking him, he obviously would, he might have fought him, right? But this was more his thinking of, first of all, this is my family, we don't do that in families, and then second of all, this is my king and this is my older brother. So I do think this was also what played into this situation.
Mm. I think he was unarmed as well, wasn't he? So probably wouldn't have been a good idea to.
Yeah, but it is kind of said he was the strongest one of the family. Everybody in the family is described like Finarfin is the wisest of the bunch, Fingolfin is the strongest, and Fëanor, is, well, the most overpowered. He's, kind of the chosen one, but you know, I don't think physically Fëanor, and you see that in him dying pretty early on, against
I
Othmorg.
I thought you were going to say Fëanor was the most psychotic, but
Also that, like he was great in all the things. Anyway, my cat is attacking me. Sorry.
Do you two need a minute?
No. She's playing. Anyway, so then fast forward, the High King of the Noldor dies, and there is obviously a new High King, his son Fëanor, but he basically gets banished by the gods. I don't want to repeat this whole story. Read it up, people, if you seriously don't know. But the thing is, he wants to revenge his father, and he also, and this is what I do think was his main interest, he wants to go after the Silmarils, because Morgoth and Ungoliant have stolen his precious gem, the height of his power. Sorry, just one sec. Meats 9. Sorry. This is ridiculous, people, and I will be too lazy to cut this out, so just deal with it. Anyway, do you hear that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can hear
you. So anyway, so he goes after, public enemy number one, Morgoth, and he kind of tells the Valar, the demigods of this world, you're not better than him. You're basically the same. You are the same people. But he's your brother in mind and in other things. So I'm not listening to you. Like, why would I be here? I'm searching my own luck. See you never. So he goes off, and this is a really crucial moment for the Noldor, because a whole nation breaks up. Basically, there are those who follow their new king, and I said, for various reasons, because he makes sense in his speech. He gives an epic speech. Fëanor really has that power of speech in him, and he gives an epic speech, and he says, first of all, I want to revenge my father. He was your king, he was killed, let's go, people. So I think a lot of the people wanted revenge, but also he gave other people hope of let's go back to our land, to our roots, basically, because Middle Earth is
yeah.
where the elves
Well,
were
there's
settled.
also ambition there as well, isn't there? There's the kind of the hope for them to have realms of their own
Yeah,
in Middle Earth, and
yeah,
that's what we see with Galadriel. That's what we
yeah,
see with, I think, with Fingon,
yeah, yeah.
arguably.
Turgon, even, he was given the dream, he built, and Finrod as well. They built epic
Well,
cities.
Turgon, I think, is more reluctant than his brother. I think.
In
I mean,
going, yes.
yes, because we see he sets up his kingdom right on the coast, looking towards Aman, and then he leaves there, but then he builds
Yeah,
Gondolin, and it's built in the image of Tyrion, which suggests
yes,
that he misses home to me.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But these are Fingolfin's sons. Fingolfin himself follows out of kind of concern for abandoning his own people
Yes, exactly.
to follow Fëanor.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's two reasons. I think it's that, which is and makes him, in my mind, one of the best king the Noldor ever had. Because I agree with you. I don't think he would have left. I think he would have stayed behind, but he saw so many of my people are leaving, and he didn't want to leave them just with Feanor. He was afraid, he was
mm,
afraid of, and the thing is, the Noldor at that time were already in, how do you call, like, they were divided already. There were, because they are called
mm.
Fingolfin's people, Finarfin's people, and Feanor's people. It was literally three hosts for the three brothers, right? And so you already see some things off there. But he said, I can't abandon my people, so okay, I'm going with them. I
I
don't
mean,
know
we
Finarfin's.
earlier on in the Silmarillion, we get the stuff about the first heraldry as well. So that
Mm,
heraldic symbols. I can't speak. So like we see the banners in kind of
hmm
Game of Thrones and so on.
hmm
And
Yeah,
Tolkien even drew illustrations of a lot of these
yeah,
different things. They all look kind of similar, but
hmm
they're all kind of geometric patterns with stars. But
hmm
but um, maybe you can edit that in, or maybe you'll be too lazy. I don't know.
too lazy.
But look it up on Google. All of the houses and all of the sort of sub houses of the different groups in the Silmarillion, groups of elves, all have their
Yeah,
own
yeah,
heraldic symbols, and that
yeah,
dates from that time as well,
yeah.
which demonstrates this kind of politicization
hmm
of the Noldor society,
hmm
as influenced by Melkor, I think.
Yes. Yeah. No, definitely. And yeah, and so this is one of the reasons, he goes for his people, which again
Mm.
makes him one of the best kings they will ever have. Sadly, he wasn't king for long, but anyway.
Mm.
But I
No,
do think,
he was king for a fair amount of time. I mean, it was four
yes.
thirty something, I think, when he dies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a few
Still.
hundred years, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, not everybody made it that long, yeah.
mm,
But anyway, so I think the second reason was what I was hinting at before, and I really do think, it played into that he accepted that his brother is the new High King of the Noldor. And he kind of followed orders, not really, but I do think later on you see in his disappointment, it's not just the disappointment because Fëanor betrays them twice, right? And it's not just the disappointment in his brother, it's also how can a brother do that to another, even if it's a stepbrother, it's also the disappointment in a king, in a really bad king abandoning, because he
mm,
wasn't, when Fëanor burned the ships and basically cut them off and made them go on that gruesome journey he didn't want to take over the Helcaraxe. Like, he was like, how can you do that to your own kin and to your own people? Because
mm.
his host was a really big host, right? So he Fëanor abandoned them, and that's like, how, like, this is the worst king ever, right?
Can I ask a question about that? Actually,
Yeah,
do you remember your first reading of the Silmarillion? Um,
yeah,
do you,
ish.
when you got to that part, when you got to the part where Feanor burns the
Burning,
ships
yeah,
and Fingolfin has to cross the Helcaraxe,
yeah,
don't you just want them to meet again face to face at that point? Like I was
yeah,
waiting for that. I was waiting for that moment for them to
yeah,
meet face to face, because
yeah,
you just, after that betrayal, you just
yeah,
kind of want them to fight then, don't you?
yeah.
As much as you admire Fingolfin for his restraint and his,
Yeah, and I do think it could have happened, but Fëanor was already dead because they
mm,
came to the camp of Fëanor then later on. Obviously, it took them a bit longer, but but Fëanor was already dead. So maybe
mm,
I don't. Again, he was still the High King. I don't think he would have killed him in single combat or something like that, but something would have happened. And I don't know if at that time he would turn the other cheek, right? Because I really do think, yeah. Um, Interesting thought. What I always felt more for Turgon, because he lost
mm,
his wife, he almost lost his daughter,
yeah.
and it's also described, right, and the choice he had to make, and then you later on even know that he really hated, Fëanor for that, but also Morgoth, obviously. um I was more thinking about Turgon, but yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I just want them to. I just wanted them to come to blows at that point, the first time through.
Yeah,
I'm
but
sure
Tolkien
because
doesn't, it's brothers. Tolkien doesn't
no.
want that to happen. And you even see then later on in a lot of these people from the family, I just mentioned all the children and other and Fëanor had 7 sons, and one of the sons, Medros, it was Medros, I think, who was
Mm.
hanging on Thangorodrim, right? Yeah.
Like
Um,
Prometheus.
like Prometheus, yes. And yeah, so there are a lot of the cousins who want to heal, that family feud, who are still said to be friends. Even Aredel, Fingolfin's daughter, she wants to visit her cousins and all that. She's still friends with a lot of the other Noldor, like Fëanor's line, which is interesting. And I do think Tolkien didn't want that to happen, what you mentioned, right? He didn't want brothers to
No,
kill
no,
each
clearly,
other.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there are a lot of tries of that family to get back together.
Yeah, Fingon has a brilliant moment where he, in the role of Heracles, he goes and rescues
Yes.
his cousin.
Yeah, yeah. With
Which
the
is
eagle, who the eagle is not a baddie in this, not like
no,
in Greek mythology where the eagle is the baddie.
yeah, this is a sadistic eagle coming back every day and eating the liver.
Every day and kills poor, yeah, well, anyway, poor
Helen
Prometheus.
got me a book of Greek mythology for my birthday, so I've got it on the brain at the moment.
Yeah, it's a really cool story, isn't it? Like, even they're mentioning the Caucasus, and it's so cool. Yeah, I love Prometheus. He's one of my favorite characters in Greek mythology because he was always pro-human. All these gods, they kind of hated us or played with us. Prometheus was pro-humans, pro-humanity.
Yeah, and he's a rebellious character as
He
well, in the
is,
same
yes,
way that Feanor is, except in a
he
completely
is.
different way that Feanor is, because
Yes, yes,
Feanor's rebellion is kind of meat-headed and psychotic and
yeah. And the
way over the
fight.
top.
Yeah, exactly. And the fire for Prometheus and humanity stands for wisdom and not,
Yeah.
for burning basically, and for the bad side of fire. It's literally the complete opposite. Yeah. For
Mm.
not for the destructive side of fire, but for the knowledge, because fire also brought knowledge to humanity, right?
Mm.
Anyway, we're not getting into Greek mythology here. I wish one day Dan and I will do, because I got him hooked. Did I get you hooked a little bit, Dan?
A little bit.
Yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
don't really have time to dedicate to like
Okay.
just doing Greek mythology any more than you do.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, you've
Yeah.
started something a little bit. I think I told you the other day I've started watching a documentary about
Yeah.
Greek mythology as well.
Yeah. Yeah, they're good ones on YouTube. Yeah.
Mm,
Anyway, good. So we basically, well, then the thingy happened with the burning of the ships, and his brother again does a
mm,
shameful deed. He kills Teleri, who just refused to, give him the ships, because they can see, okay, something is off, killing a lot of people. In come Fingolfin and Finarfin. And they, in a way, ate their brother, but they don't know that they're, what he has done. They thought the Teleri attacked first, so they bring fresh troops, they help him, so the Noldor win this battle, and then Feanor decides, okay, I'm taking the ships, see you never, sailing to Middle Earth, burning those ships, leaving them there
mm.
stranded. Now the brothers split up again. So formerly it were 3 brothers, and now they split up again. And this is interesting because I find it fascinating to think about something Tolkien doesn't tell us. So Fingolfin goes, we said now why, on the journey, and decides, okay, I can't turn back. The Valar kind of banned us. And I don't want to. I think he also at that point didn't want to turn back, because, when you
Mm.
start your journey, you continue your journey and finish your journey. And all his
I
children
think I
wanted.
think he felt trapped. I mean,
He did.
he probably didn't want to go back and beg
Yeah.
for forgiveness.
Yeah. 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 And he wanted to, pursue the others anyway. And
Mm,
he had a lot of people whispering in his ear, I think, who said, okay, come on, let's go. We're here now. It's been done. So anyway, they, took the gruesome journey to Helcarax. But let's come to the other brother first, Finarfin, who
mm,
is said to be the wisest of the bunch. Why? Because he pleaded with Vala and said, okay, sorry, dudes, I didn't know what's happening here. Can you please forgive us and let us back in the promised realm? And they do that. And so imagine Finwë's dead. Fëanor, the new High King, left for Middle-earth. Fingolfin's gone, the oldest brother, and now Finarfin is the only Noldor prince. I mean, yes, one of his sisters was still there, but we think, I think, that Finarfin is probably the reigning king of
No,
the
he is.
Noldor. And
He is.
yeah,
He is. They say that in the Silmarillion.
yeah. And well, we said a lot of like the mother stayed behind. Indus is still behind. Finarfin is married to another Vanya. Just forgot her name, but
Yeah, I can't remember.
yeah, but he is oh my god, what's her name now? Oh, Galadriel's mother. Damn it.
Oh, Eowyn.
Um, Erwin, yes,
Mm.
exactly, yes. So yes, so they also she stays behind us. So there are a few Noldor who still are in Valinor in the Undying Lands. Interesting thought, but I do think, I don't know percentage wise, but I do think more than half of them left. That would be
Yeah, I think
my
Fingolfin's host is the biggest of the three. We're told in the Silmarillion. So
yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So, and they go on this gruesome journey over the Helcaraxe, yada, yada, yada. A lot of elves die. And again, this is the first time you hear, oh, interesting thought, last thought about the Undying Lands. Two people die in the Undying Lands.
Mm.
First, Fëanor's mother, Noldor.
Hmm.
Second, Fëanor's father, Noldor. So isn't it interesting? The Undying Lands, nobody's dying there, but the king and his wife, his first wife, are the ones, literally the only two people you'll ever hear of dying in the Undying Lands.
Mm.
Also, Fingolfin's father. So interesting thought. Yeah.
Different though, aren't they, the two of them? Because Finwë would have been re-embodied and would have come back eventually, I would
Yes,
think.
because he was
Um,
killed. Yes.
yeah, he
Yeah.
was murdered, and
Yeah.
he was although he was, maybe you could criticize him for being a weaker king.
Yeah.
He was, a good person by
Yeah.
all accounts. Just maybe a bit naive and a bit weak, but
Yeah.
he wouldn't have, been prevented from being re-embodied
No, no, no. But
as some
he's.
elves are.
I know. But he's, in the halls of Mandos, so he's not like, roaming around the lands and stuff like that still.
Mm.
So yeah. I mean, his wife is, even Miriel is still there. She's, weaving tapestry. So,
Mm.
of all the shameful deeds of her brood. Anyway,
Yeah, she
must
goes to work for Violet, doesn't she?
yes, so it must be fun, to watch your son slaying other people and you have
Mm.
to do tapestry about it. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so they cross the Hakkarax. We said a
Mm.
lot of people die, amongst them Turgon's wife, another Vanya, the only Vanya, really interesting, the only full-blooded Vanya who crosses the Hakkarax, and who goes to the to Middle Earth. So, do you have a passage?
Well, I was going to talk about the moment when the first sun
Oh
rises.
yeah, that's so beautiful because it's who enters the world and what happens.
Well, Fingolfin is just entering Middle Earth at the exact moment that the first sun rises.
Exactly.
I don't think I'm going to read it because I don't actually remember where it is exactly. I think it's the end of chapter 9, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not going to spend ages looking at it,
No,
looking
but
up
you
the
can
right
read the other.
passage. But
Yeah.
I've got another
We'll.
passage for later on, but there's an
We'll.
epic passage at the end. I think at the end of chapter 9, where we're told that flowers are springing up around Fingolfin's feet as he's entering
Yeah.
Middle Earth, which is just
Yeah.
a wonderful image.
It is. And, again, who's the High King of the Noldor? Who's the chosen one? Who is the most important elf, as Tolkien tells us, and the most powerful elf? It's his brother. I don't
Mm,
see any flowers or anything springing, when Fëanor entered the world. No, it happened when Fingolfin came
mm,
to Middle Earth. So this is very foretelling, I would say. And again, because the sun is power, because the sun tells us the baddies, they're afraid of the sun, they don't work in the sun,
mm,
they are less powerful in the sun. So him coming to the world and the sun rising for the first time is a very powerful image.
mm. And I like all the music that is sort of woven into that whole
Trumpets.
section as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
because he marches right up to the gates of Angband with his
Yeah.
host and
Yeah.
blasts the walls of Angband with his trumpets.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
you think of the prevalence of music throughout the whole thing as well, with
yeah.
the kind of well, the Fingon and Mithras moment that we already talked about. There's the
Yeah.
song of Valinor that Fingon sings, which is a song of restoration, which kind of he
Yeah.
almost sings that into being because he undertakes
Yeah.
that mission because he loves Mithras, who's close with him, and he
Yeah.
wants to rescue him, but also he wants to repair some of the damage that's been done in the family and
Yeah.
bring some peace. And so he
Yeah.
sings a song of Valinor, a song of peace, and he kind of sings that into being in a sense
Yeah.
because that's what happens.
Yeah.
It works at least
Yeah.
for a while.
And music is, I can't, stop talking about that. Music is so important. This is how the world came into being,
Mm,
with music. This is how a lot of these people fight. There are, literally, there's a duel of Sauron and Finrod.
mm,
Yes, where they sing, right? So in Tolingauroth, yes, yeah.
yeah,
There's a duel of song, and so voice and song and music is really really powerful in this world, and has a bit of magic in it, right? So yeah. I love the trumpets thingy because it's also, trumpets are. I'm a big Wagner fan,
of
and
course you are.
Richard. No, it's not because I'm German, but I think Richard Wagner is one of the most influential,
Mm,
composers of our time. And he wrote music for Blasinstrumente. How do you? I don't even know the English word for trumpets, for the horns, for how are these instruments called?
um,
It's not
well,
string instruments.
the
It's
brass, I think, trumpets are.
the the instruments you blow, basically. So
Mm,
that is what Wagner wrote his music for, because he said,
mm,
that is very underdeveloped in opera and in music. It was always for, the for harps, for violins, for these or for singers or for the piano, but there wasn't anything for these instruments like the trumpets. And so he wrote his music focusing on that, and this is why Wagner is so powerful, and that always reminds me of that. Sorry for this little excursion, but I'm a big opera fan anyway. Back
yeah.
to the topic.
Yeah,
So
it's the brass section of the orchestra you're talking about. Is the
the brass.
trumpets, the trombones, etc.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he wrote his music for that because it is so powerful, and because he did a lot of Germanic mythology in his opera, and this
Mm.
fits. You don't want to hear, Germanic mythology is not a teeny tiny violin. No, it's a violent trumpet. Yeah, it's true.
True. Yeah.
And so I always imagine him entering Middle Earth like a Wagner opera. But
Mm.
anyway. um yeah, so he enters, the sun rises, and basically he meets some orcs. He's fighting off some orcs, and these orcs just come from the battle where his brother, this is very reminiscent, where his brother just was killed, where his nephew just after that, his nephew was captured, the said Medros, who hung with his wrist on the mountain Thangorodrim. And yeah, so he enters, and well, one of his first deeds is basically for 400 years, keeping Morgoth in his fortress, keeping him at bay,
Mm.
and he besieged the fortress, basically, Angband.
That whole period was the height of elven society in Middle Earth, because it was the
Yeah,
point at which the Noldor were at the height of their powers,
yeah,
and it was relatively peaceful for most of that time.
yes,
Morgoth would send, raiding parties out through secret passageways in the north, and
yeah,
there were skirmishes, but there wasn't really any big battles during that whole time.
no, no,
And this is when they built their countries, their
hmm,
various different states. As Gondolin sprung up, and
hmm,
Fingolfin ruled from Hithlum,
yes,
around Lake Mithrim, and
yeah,
I think his seat was Barad Aethel. I'm not,
yes,
not sure how
but
you pronounce, not sure you pronounce that one actually, but um,
yeah, so a very strategic a point, and I always find it fascinating, to look up in the maps where all the sons of Fëanor, because at that time, at that point, as we said, Fëanor was dead.
mm,
Again, this is the importance of both brothers. So actually, in the beginning, Tolkien tells us Fëanor, is basically Anakin. He's the chosen one. He should be, the one who does all the good deeds, but he's not. He failed, and he literally dies entering the world right away. Right? He doesn't get the boss fight. He doesn't even get to fight Morgoth. He gets to fight basically his second or third in command, Gothmog, and he dies fighting him.
mm.
So no power to you, Feanor. But doesn't this show you the imbalance of why does he was supposed to be that great, but then his brother is, and his brother makes it through through many wars and all that, and he became a really good leader because then something really cool happens, and out of but well, because he was thankful for his life being saved, but I think he recognized, okay, the kingship should go to the second eldest son,
You're
of
talking about when Mithros decides to abdicate.
Finn. Yes,
Yeah. So
yeah,
after he is rescued by
yeah,
Fingolfin's son, Mithros comes back and he says,
hmm,
I don't want the high kingship," and it
yes.
passes to Fingolfin at that point.
Fingolfin. Yes, exactly. So it's not, but because he could have kept it, right? His father was the eldest son. The normal line of
Mm.
succession would be him as the eldest son of Fëanor taking over. And it is said the Silmarillion, or I don't really know where it, there was a bit of a strife then amongst the brothers themselves, right? Because some
Mm.
didn't agree that all of a sudden now the younger son is taking over in Fingolfin, and that line is inheriting the crown now. So they're passing the
And
crown
that
is passing the whole
and that
family.
was that was one of the first steps in the curse coming true as well. The Doom of Mandos, which we haven't
Yeah,
mentioned, but I think people know about that. The Mandos has a proclamation to the whole of the Noldor before they leave,
yeah,
and one of the lines in there was that the House of Feanor will be the disembodied forever,
yeah.
which that is a reference to this event where they become, the
Is
the
it not
throne
dispossessed?
dispossessed. That's it. Yeah, sorry, you're
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And so they become the dispossessed when Mithros abdicates, and then the throne passes over that whole
yeah.
part of the line.
Yeah, yeah, which some of the sons, were totally not okay with. But
No.
they accepted it, because again, the oldest brother is ruling. He's this is his verdict. He says, no, this is how it goes. So in a way, that at least that there were still some rules that family followed. But anyway, yeah, so the kingship goes to Fingolfin, who becomes the new High King of the Noldor. And it is interesting because I did a survey on Twitter, one of the things I love to do. And I asked who was the best High King of the Noldor. And, some pranksters said Fëanor, but, or Finwë, but most of them actually said Fingolfin,
Mm.
which is
It's between him and Gil-galad, I would say.
yeah, I mean, Gil-galad was reigning for so long, but Gil-galad never had to make these hard family decisions, right? He fought another enemy. He never fought his own family. He never had that. Yes, he fought evil. He fought Sauron later on, but first of all, Fingolfin had to fight Melkor himself and his family and his brothers and his brothers' sons and coming to a new land. So I really do think he had a way harder job than Gil-galad.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I think that there are better, stronger stories about Fingolfin. So
Yeah.
I think you have to go
Yeah.
with that because he's just a more interesting character for that reason. But
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
So what happened in the time of his reign?
well, a lot, but not a
Yeah.
lot. I mean, we don't get too many mentions of
No,
Fingolfin
we don't.
himself in all
No.
that time, really.
No, we don't. Yeah.
I mean, a lot happens in Doria in all that time.
Mm-hmm.
There's the whole Ale storyline.
Mm-hmm. Where his daughter is involved, basically. But Fingolfin is already dead when all that happens, because at that point, Turgon is High King, I think.
Mm-mm.
No?
Don't think so, because Fingolfin doesn't die until the Dagor Bragollach, which is chapter 17. So that's the
Yeah.
chapter. That's the chapter after the Ale chapter.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. What does happen is Galadriel is interrogated by Melian, and then Thingol finds out about the. We should probably talk about that because that implicates Fingolfin in what happened in Aman. Because Thingol finds out from Círdan that there are rumors about it, and then he confronts Finrod and brothers, and Angrod is the one who reveals everything.
Yeah.
Spills the beans. The snitch.
Yeah.
The grass.
Yeah.
I'm being facetious. Obviously, like, you can totally understand why he would be completely frustrated with the situation where they're basically the rumors are that they are actually the ones who are behind everything.
Yeah.
It reaches Círdan, and then Círdan sends a message to Thingol, and Thingol confronts them, and it's just like, the thing is, I mean, the sons of Feanor have already, wound him up to no end as well back in chapter 13. This is all fresh because I've been doing videos about it for the last 6 months.
I was like, oh, okay.
But this, has implications for Fingolfin as well, because Thingol does say, I will also keep peace with Fingolfin, because clearly this wasn't his fault either, and he's endured a lot just to be able to get here to Middle-earth. What Thingol doesn't say is that actually I have quite a lot of gratitude for Fingolfin for showing up, because Doriath would have been completely besieged if it wasn't for the Naldor. But that's Thingol for you.
And the thing is, he forgave then the brothers because Finarfin's line, Galadriel and the brothers, he forgave them because they were also of his kin. Their mother was the daughter of his younger brother Elmo, I think. Sorry, these names are literally insane, but yes, his name was Elmo. And I think she is the daughter. So anyway, they were related, and he forgave. They were his kin. They were also Teleri. They must have been shocked, and he learned, they didn't partake in the kinslaying. Also, their people died. A lot of, their mother's kin were slain in Alcolonde. So anyway.
But then, obviously, I mean, there is the Dagor Bragollach, which is the big surprise battle where Morgoth finally breaks the siege, and this is the it's not the first coming of Glaurung, but the first attack of Glaurung, a fully grown adult Glaurung who comes out and lays waste to the armies, and lava pours from Thangorodrim, and it's just a massacre.
And it's a battle of the sudden flame.
Five, we get the Dagor Bragollach, which is the Battle of Sudden Flame, where this was the first real appearance of Glaurung. Glaurung had shown up earlier on and been chased off by Fingon, but this is when Glaurung appears for the first time in his adult, fully grown form.
Yes.
And lava pours from Thangarodrim, and there's basically a massive massacre, and the whole of the Ardgallen is burnt to cinders and becomes the Anfalglyph, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so Beleriand is never the same again. Yeah, I'm trying to remember who dies, but it's mostly just unnamed characters, really.
Yeah.
But I think basically the House of Bael is completely destroyed at this point, which is the house that Beren comes from. So so Barahir is. I think this is where Barahir rescues Finrod as well. So Finrod is waylaid by orcs, and Barahir shows up, and this is when the Ring of Barahir is given to Barahir, or the Ring of Finrod is given to Barahir and becomes the Ring of Barahir. But that's irrelevant.
I think that's in the. I know yet, but I'm not sure.
I think it's after the Dagor Bragalak. It's in the aftermath of the battle. But yeah, I mean that's the kind of the notable events as they happen, basically. And the big thing as far as Fingolfin is concerned is at this point he's had enough of everything that's happened, and his anger boils over. And after everything that Murgot has done, he decides that he's going to ride alone to
because he doesn't want to kill have more of his people killed again. This is very a noble king. He could have gone there with an army or whatever, but no, he didn't. He said, let's do this in single combat.
It's an epic moment. There's a lot of people's favorite Silmarillion moment.
Yes.
So I mentioned already I'm going to do a reading. Obviously, most people have probably watching this have probably read the Silmarillion account of that battle. What some people may not know is that there's a poetic version of that battle, which is also incredible. And so I'm going to read from that.
And where is that, Dan? Where can people find that?
It's in Book 3 of the History of Middle-earth series, which is the Lays of Valerian, which also includes the alliterative verse version of the Turin Turambar story, and also the Lay of Lathian. So this is from the Lay of Lathian, but which is the Beren and Luthien story. But there's a whole canto where they recall the Fingolfin duel with Morgoth, which he rides up to Thangarodrim on his horse, which is called
Halohar.
Something like that. And with his sword, Ringil.
Ringil, yes.
Well, I'll get all those names in a minute. So here goes. In that vast shadow once of yore, Fingolfin stood, his shield he bore, with field of heavens blue and star in crystal shining pale afar. In overmastering wrath and hate, desperate he smote upon that gate. The gnomish king there standing lone, while endless fortresses of stone engulfed the thin, clear, ringing keen of silver horn on baldric green. So I'm just going to pause just for a second. The gnomish king is Fingolfin, because the gnomes were the Naldor originally. So don't imagine that a garden gnome with a big red hat and a beard. And so he's riding up to Thangarodrim, and again we get the reference of his ringing silver horn, which I talked about that earlier on.
Yeah, which is very reminiscent of Orome. The way he rides with his horse, who is the Valar of Hunt, basically.
The Valar Roma or something, I think his horn is called, something like that.
Yeah.
Can't remember. Anyway, I'll carry on. His hopeless challenge dauntless cried, Fingolfin there, come, open wide, dark king, your ghastly brazen doors. Come forth, whom earth and heaven abhors. Come forth, O monstrous craven lord. and fight with thine own hand and sword, thou wielder of hosts of banded thralls, thou tyrant leaguered with strong walls, thou foe of gods and elvish race. I wait thee here. Come, show thy face. Then Morgoth came. For the last time in those great wars he dared to climb, from subterranean throne profound, the rumour of his feet a sound, of rumbling earthquake underground. Black armoured, towering, iron crowned, he issued forth his mighty shield, a vast unblazoned sable field, with shadow like a thundercloud, and over the gleaming king it bowed, as huge aloft like mace he hurled, that hammer of the underworld, Grond. Clanging to ground, it tumbled down like a thunderbolt, and crumpled the rocks beneath it. Smoke upstarted, a pit yawned, and a fire darted. Fingolfin, like a shooting light, beneath a cloud, a stab of white, sprang then aside, and Ringil drew, like ice that gleameth cold and blue, his sword devised of elvish skill, to pierce the flesh with deadly chill. With 7 wounds it rent his foe, and 7 mighty cries of woe rang in the mountains, and the earth quook. Quook? That's a word. And the earth quook, and Angband's trembling armies shook. Yet
Well, he needed something to rhyme.
I know, if that's a word, quook. Quook. Gonna look that up in a second. Mm-hmm. Yet orcs would after laughing tell of the duel at the gates of hell, though elvish song thereof was made, ere this but one, when sad was laid, the mighty king in Barrow High, and Thorndor, eagle of the sky. It's spelt Thorndor, but it's Thorondor in the Silmarillion. Tolkien changes the name. Eagle of the sky. The dreadful tidings brought and told to mourning elfiness of old. Thrice was Fingolfin with great blows to his knees beaten. Thrice he rose, still leaping up beneath the cloud, aloft to hold, star shining, proud, his stricken shield, his sundered helm, that dark nor might could overwhelm. Till all the earth was burst and rent in pits about him, he was spent. His feet stumbled, he fell to wreck upon the ground, and on his neck a foot like rooted hills was set, and he was crushed, not conquered yet. One last despairing stroke he gave, the mighty foot pale Ringin clave about the heel, and black the blood gushed as from smoking fountain flood. And Morgoth walks with a limp ever after. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more to read. Do you want to carry on?
Yeah.
Yeah. Holt goes forever from that stroke, great Morgoth, but the king he broke, and would have hewn and mangled throne to wolves devouring, low from throne, that Manwë bade him build on high, on peak unscaled beneath the sky. Morgoth to watch, now down there swooped, Thorondor, the king of eagles, stooped, and rending beak of gold he smote in Baugleir's face, then up did float, on pinions 30 fathoms wide, bearing away, though loud they cried, the mighty course, the elven king, and where the mountains make a ring, far to the south about that plain, whereafter Gondolin did reign, embattled city, at great height, upon a dizzing snow-cap white, in mounded cairn the mighty dead, he laid upon the mountain's head. Never orc nor demon after dared, that passed to climb over which there stared, Fingolfin's high and holy tomb, till Gondolin's appointed doom.
Oh, it's really cool. Yeah, I like that version. I prefer the other one, but I love this version as well. And what he could do, and that we literally have 2 versions, is epic. But what I really loved about this is you see basically fire and ice. You see light and darkness. You have all these, like
Mm.
entities fighting each other, and the way he is prescribed is not it's a normal regular elf fighting the mightiest demigod in this world. It's basically two equals fighting each other, and
Mm.
Morgoth.
Kind of. They're close to. Yeah, their power levels are closer than you think. Yeah, you talked
Yes.
about this a little while ago.
Yeah.
Morgoth has weakened himself considerably by this point.
Yes. Yeah, he did.
Um,
And this is how Fingolfin managed, because under normal circumstances, look, Morgoth would be stronger than any other Valar in his beginning days. But Morgoth,
mm,
what he did was, and this is basically, the books Dan was just talking about, there's a book called Morgoth's Ring, and this is, before Sauron forged the One Ring, Morgoth forged the world in his, he put all his malice, all, everything bad he had in within him, he put into the world, into his creations. But so he lost a lot of his power, and there are, people speculating. I mean, it's ridiculous if you think of it like, oh, he has 5% of his power left. But the thing is, he didn't have that much left, and this is why Fingolfin and him were in that fight almost equals, I would say, right? um
yeah, I don't think there's any chance that Fingolfin could have won,
No,
really.
and
But
Fingolfin knew that himself. He knew
mm,
going on this journey, just like remember Sam and Frodo. When Sam gives Frodo, the last water, and he said he basically knows, well, we
mm,
won't have enough to go back. This is people know in these moments. Okay, well, I. I I won't come back, but I'm still doing it because I have to, and that is very often you have that in the Lord of the Rings, and this is one of the
mm.
moments Tolkien describes
It's
Fingolfin
a it's a
knowing.
very it's a very Norse thing as well, isn't it?
It
It's a
is,
very
yes.
Ragnarok with the
Yes.
kind of idea of, we know we're going to lose this fight against evil, but
Yeah.
evil is still evil and it
Yeah.
needs to be fought no
Yeah.
matter what. It's almost
Yeah.
like that hope against hopelessness.
It is, but it is also the single combat factor is very, again, and I know I'm saying it, but it's very Greek mythology.
Mm,
This is, what in the fall of Troy, very you
true.
have a lot of these single combats, because they say, I don't want to spend more blood of my people. Let's fight this out, single combat. Let's see,
Mm.
yeah.
Hector and Achilles and so on.
Heck,
Yeah.
yes, Patroclus before him,
Mm,
all these people. So it is, yeah, it's a magic epic moment, and this is where heroes are created, right? It's
mm,
not, fighting with your army and then a king, standing on the back of the battlefield and watching out what the armies are doing. And actually, this is also a heroic moment for Morgoth. Fingolfin gave Morgoth an heroic moment without Morgoth wanting one, because
no.
he didn't want to come out. But I think at the end of this, Morgoth was like, "Phew, thank
Mm,
God I'm just limping and I made it out of it." No, but seriously, because he, first of all, he was surprised by this attack. He never thought, this is like Sauron. Sauron never thought a small hobbit would carry the ring to Mordor to destroy it and not use it.
mm,
Baddies think differently in this world, right? And Morgoth would never, I think he was really surprised. He thought, okay, maybe an army, and he could have managed that more easily with his army than fighting off the other army. But him in single combat, he never had, nobody ever dared to fight him. I mean, Turkas wanted to, but he
mm,
ran. But so he doesn't know, he doesn't have this experience of single combat. I think this is why Sauron lost as well. He wasn't experienced in anybody fighting him, or two or three. It was Gigalad and what's his name? Um,
Elendil.
Elendil, yes, sorry. It's late. Fighting. I think all these baddies, they're not used to that concept because this is a very heroic moment. This
Mm,
is, actually what heroic people do and not hiding in your walls. This is what he even says, he had great, epic, big walls. Well, he was
mm.
hiding there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it says when he first builds Angband in the Silmarillion, it says that he never came forth to do battle again except
No.
for once more, and this is that once more moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you say it's a heroic moment for him. It kind of is because the orcs, see it all, and we're told in the poem that I just read that they laughed about it later and so on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Obviously,
Morgoth also loses face here. I mean, literally, because he gets an eagle to come down and scratch him on the face. But
yeah.
he loses face here, and
Yeah.
I think it inspires future heroes as well. When you think about Beren and Luthien,
Yeah.
they also gave hope to the Eldar because they successfully
Yeah.
recaptured one of the Silmarils and so on.
Yeah.
But
You see, you have a chance, you stand a chance even against, and this is, what motivated Gandalf. Gandalf knows all these stories,
mm,
all these heroic stories, because probably they made it back to the Undying Lands, the myth of Fingolfin fighting and whatnot. Fingolfin would have been re-embodied in the halls of Mandos. So they must know what happened there. So Gandalf must have known, right? So
mm,
there is hope, this element of hope, even against the baddest baddie in the world is there. So it's really, really cool. And a single elf can do it. Yes, he was very powerful, but he was not a god, he was not even anything like Melian was, or somebody like that. Even
mm,
Luthien must have, because somebody where I was on Robert's stream recently, and somebody asked, okay, so but why is Luthien more powerful than Galadriel or Feanor? But you can't, because she's a half angelic spirit, you can't compare
mm.
Luthien and Luthien's power. Sorry, Cat is making an appearance now. Okay, say hello.
Luthien's really difficult. Hello, is that Meats?
This is me. Yeah, leave the microphone. Okay, you had your moment now. You had your minute of fame, 15 seconds of fame. Now you go to bed. Yeah. Okay. No.
Congratulations, Meats. You're now a YouTuber.
You're a YouTuber now. You made it. Anyway, I have 3 of these. Anyway, yeah. So I really, in a way, he redeemed Morgoth in front of his troops as well, right? But yeah,
Mm.
it's a it's a
In a
it's a
way, you can argue that, yeah.
no, you can't. No, you can't.
Uh,
But yeah, I'm a big Morgoth fan, so obviously I liked no, but the way he fights, it's like pure and raw strength against somebody, who's
mm,
very agile, mobile, who's like, this is how I would imagine it, seeing it
mm.
one day, hopefully, on film. Yeah, and him just boom,
Yeah, you can
boom.
kind of, the Legolas moment where he kills the Mumak in the movies.
Yes.
You can kind of picture it being a bit like that, but just
Yeah.
even way more epic than that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Morgoth isn't just a mindless elephant; he's a
No.
he's a dark lord. But
Yeah.
you can kind of imagine like him leaping around like that, and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I would love to see an adaptation of that
Oh
fight.
my
Although
God.
I don't think anything would actually satisfy my imagination.
Probably not.
Quite
But
honestly,
anyway. Yeah.
but yeah. But so that's the end of Fingolfin.
Yes.
As the poem says, and as the Silmarillion also says, he is lifted up into the mountains around
Yeah.
Gondolin, I think appropriately,
Yes.
and they build a cairn there in the mountains.
Yeah. And no evil being ever dares, to
Mm,
cross that mountain or to come near the tomb, which is, very reminiscent for even after the death. Because what happens to his brother, right? His brother goes up in flames. Nothing is left of Fëanor. Boom, gone.
mm,
And he gets, the epic tomb. He will be remembered. He's remembered in song. He's remembered in myth, which is,
mm.
totally.
You mentioned Gandalf knows all these stories. The other person who also knows all this is Elrond, of course, because
Yes,
this is his family.
his ancestor. Yeah.
Yeah, and his ancestor. Yeah, I mean, it's years before. Well, it's not that long actually. It's not that much longer until
Mm,
Elrond is born.
yeah. Yeah.
But Elrond has the role in the Lord of the Rings. We put this in a Lord of the Rings context again. Has the role
Mm,
of guiding building the Fellowship from
yeah.
the Council of Elrond,
Yeah.
and he kind of says, this is a moment for small hands to come forth and
Hmm.
play their part in history,
Yeah.
and he knows this from his own history.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Philosopher's Games, who
Oh my
yesterday,
God.
as we're recording this, released a 2-hour video about Elrond, which is part
Yeah.
one of I don't know how many parts he's doing,
Well, Chris
which
said, I
he's
just
been
chat.
working on for 6 months.
Yeah, yeah. I chatted to Chris earlier, and he said probably three. So I
Okay,
think the
that's what I
first,
thought. Yeah, from
yeah, I
what he
think the
was saying.
first video he said were 28 written pages. I know because this is how I write my law videos. So if I do a 25-minute video, it's 5 pages. So Chris has part one Elrond, 28 pages, 2 hour, I think
Mm,
it is. I'm halfway through, and I really enjoy it. Chris is,
yeah,
he's epic. I love him. Yeah, as we, all our little community, I always have people here I'm, I like and admire their content and what they do. Just like Dan. So Dan,
mm.
let's recap this. So, for you, what role in your head canon do you also admire Fingolfin? Do you see? Is there anything critical about him? What would be
Mm.
your summary?
Well, I think there are points in the story where he could have made different choices, and it might have been interesting to see what would have happened.
Hmm.
But I don't think you can criticize him too much because I think, as you say, he had to deal with a lot within his own family, in addition to having to deal with the evil of Morgoth and being
Yeah,
the king of the Naldor and
yeah,
being responsible for his people.
yeah,
He also had to deal with a lot from his own brother,
yeah.
his half brother. So.
And the sons then afterwards, who are his nephews, and
Mm,
I mean, it's still family. It's
mm.
shameful, for him.
So yeah, I love this character. I wish that we got more stories about him within the years of the siege.
Yeah.
So there's room for that to
Hmm.
happen.
Hmm.
Within your headcanon, you can imagine him playing a role in various stories that happened during that period, and it'd be nice if that whole period was fleshed out more than it is in a way.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's a thoroughly enjoyable character, and one of the things I like about him as well, of course, is not only is he brave and courageous and a fierce fighter, but he shows restraint at certain times, as we
Yeah.
said, and you have to admire that about him.
Yeah.
His ability to hold the moral high ground, and to do what's right for his people in
Yeah.
those situations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, thank you for inviting me on to talk about this awesome character.
Yeah, I loved it. No, but again, for me, it's this balance he had to hold, like with his whole crazy family,
Mm,
and still, having love for his brother, having that admiration and that thinking of, this is my king, I have to obey, but then having thoughts of his own and knowing this is right, this is wrong, because he clearly knew that Fëanor didn't, or well, he did, but he did it anyway.
mm,
So this is, and him wanting to be a good king for his people, so he balanced and he juggled so many things at once, and this is why for me he is my number one pick for best, king of all kings. And yeah, no, as I said, this is, he had to deal with way more than any other king had, and I love that, and his sense of family, and yeah, I. And he created that epic line. He's the ancestor of all these people we will talk about centuries later on.
mm,
So yeah, I find that fascinating, and I love that character. Yeah, I love talking about him. Although, again, pretty underdeveloped. We don't know that much, but you feel the way Tolkien and how many epic scenes Tolkien gives him, even in the small amount of
Mm.
over all scenes he has, you see how much he must have loved to write about that character.
Yeah, I was just thinking about a scene that we didn't specifically mention, that we maybe glossed over a little, when Feanor is first banished by the Valar, going
Where
way
he
back to the
ruled
start of
as
the
king.
story.
Yeah.
Well, he's banished and he goes up to Fornost, and
Mhm.
I think it's called. Is it
Formenos. Formenos.
Formenos? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
Fornost is third
Fornost
age.
is in Arnor, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Feanor is banished, and the Valar say, in however many years it is, you can come back and your exile will be ended, but only if your brother will forgive you.
Mm.
And he immediately says, "Oh, I'll forgive him,"
I'll forgive him. Yeah.
like then and there, like
Without. Yeah.
without even questioning it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which you can't say much more than that. What a guy.
No. Yeah. Yes, he is.
Mm.
Good. So, thank you, my lovelies. Dan, let us know what's up next for you. What is
Mm-hmm.
happening on your channel? You still doing?
Probably Hobbit Day, because I'm still trying to kind of figure out what I'm going to do. I think I might do something about kind of the origins of the hobbits, because
Mm.
I'm going to make it a tradition to do something about hobbits every year for
Yeah,
Hobbit Day.
same. Yeah.
So I'm thinking either something about where did hobbits first come from, or
Hmm.
I actually did record a podcast last night with Mr. Timbo Took,
Oh, we
which was
love
great.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, another awesome Tolkien fandom person that we know. It's his first appearance on somebody else's channel, and his first appearance out of character as well. So if you know Timbo Took, he plays a hobbit on YouTube. He wears a
He's a
wig.
painter. Yeah.
Yeah, check his channel out if you like
Yeah.
painting, or even if you like.
He's the Bob Ross of the Shire.
Yeah, basically. He calls Bob Ross the Blue Wizard, who references Bob Ross in his videos all the time,
Okay.
which is hilarious. But yeah, we had a great chat about hobbits yesterday, so that'll be coming out at some point. And
Yay.
I'm also working on a longish video, not Philosopher's Games long, but a longish
Nobody
video
will.
about Aldarion and Erendis.
Oh, cool.
But it's going to be a 2-part video, so the first part is over half an hour, so it's going
Mm.
to be longish, but not Philosopher's Games long, as I say.
No, nobody can ever do that. Good. So, Dan, thank you again for coming on. People, again, please, you will see a lot of videos drop when you see this. I probably just have dropped the Witch King Wars in the North video, a really, really cool video of talking exactly about that, about Fornost and hobbits, and the beginning of the Third Age, and how the Witch King fought the what's left of Numenorians in
Did
living
you
in the north.
did you tell me earlier on that you were going to do a Witch King voice?
Maybe.
Can I do it? Because you did voices
No,
for me. No. Oh,
no.
okay.
The video's already recorded, so
Cool.
sorry. Next
Okay.
time, Dan. I'm planning a Witch King series, so dude had a lot to do in the Third Age. Anyway,
Mm.
you can do the Shire thingy then. You were hissing in text message to me. So anyway, too much information. So yeah, that's what I am doing, and please expect every Wednesday and every Sunday a law video for the next time. I can't promise to keep that up forever because it's a
Mm.
hell lot of work, and every Friday we'll have something like this. So please, people, subscribe, like, comment, just text anything. I'm happy with hi, Helen. Yeah, and I really enjoyed this. Thank you very much, my lovelies. Have a fabulous whatever day it is for you. Bye bye.